What's going on, everybody? We are the Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams.
I am the brother, Chris Adams.
The brother. We are here to talk about episode 5 of, what's the show called? That was. We are on the penultimate episode of this.
Okay.
Which I hate because I want this to keep going. I thought I saw someone on the internet say that WandaVision felt like it was too many episodes too long, and this one is way too many episodes too short. Like the buildup of what they've been doing already, it feels like it really should just be rolling into the start of the big finale, not the next episode is the finale.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where this show feels like it should be an 8-episode long season rather than a 6-episode, which we know is typically more of like the Netflix style run. I know, I think Mandalorian, did Mandalorian have 8 episodes or something like that? It's not something you see too, it's not something we're seeing too often on Disney Plus anymore with these Marvel shows specifically. They're kind of all over the place. I know Bad Batch coming up, I believe, is supposed to have like 14 episodes to it. So they're kind of running all over the place with some of these Marvel and Star Wars shows here. But yeah, this definitely feels like it should be a little bit longer than six episodes. But at the same time, I know we're looking at wrapping up the story next week. So I am kind of interested in seeing the direction they take to kind of bring it all home and whether or not they are actually going to commit to a second season or not. I think that they've only said they're going to do one division, but they could roll this into another Captain America movie, because I mean, Captain America movies shouldn't be done. We're just going to carry on with Sam now, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll probably touch upon that at the end of this. Yep. Speaking of which, if you are watching us live, thank you for joining us here tonight as we talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier. As always, if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to submit them to the streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. We appreciate any donations there. You could also send it in the super chat on YouTube if you would like. Also, please make sure you check out patreon.com/cinefanatics. We've got stuff coming up there. I believe we have a movie watch along. Was that next week? Next Wednesday, I believe, we'll be doing the watch along of Thor from the MCU. If you are at the dude tier, that's the $5 dude tier, hop on that. You can join us for that watch along. We have movie trivia. We'll probably do another movie trivia night before the end of this month if you're on the Maverick tier. So a lot of fun things happening there. Come join us at patreon.com/cinefanatics. I feel like I've got like that whole thing down from watching other YouTube videos and how they do. Like when you watch them do like a commercial ad pitch, you can tell that they have to say like the product name or the company like so many times and how they repeat it there at the very end. So thank you for clicking on patreon.com/cinefanatics. Anyways, let's move on to Disney Plus's show of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Was that good? I got the voice for that.
What show are we talking about? The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The Bird and the Snow Boy. All right, let's do this.
Yes, Vernon, you do. Despite what else you might see anywhere else on the internet over the past 24, 48 hours, nothing has changed here except my chair's broken.
The only one whose employment is being lost here is potentially your chair.
Yeah, my chair is in the process of being replaced right now because I can't do anything with it.
Except sit.
So
this is going to be a fun one. This was an interesting episode. Let's start off the top here with how we feel about this episode in general. I'll say that right off the bat, we kicked off with an amazing action sequence. And then the rest of the episode was kind of like a...
Well, I go back before even the action sequence. I personally really loved the shot of him. He walks into this warehouse. He throws that fit, and you could feel like we've all done this, where you messed up or something didn't go the way that it should have gone, and you know it, and so you're just pacing around like you have nothing to do. There's nothing to punch or hit. You're just there in your feelings and emotions. I love how they how they did that for him. But then, kind of like what you're saying, going into the fight that's about to happen, the other two guys show up, and he snaps out of it, and he's no longer angry at himself, but like he turns his attention onto the two of them, which we saw that basically in that trailer thing. Like, you don't want to do this, and Bucky's like, hey, yeah, we do.
Don't you even start to assume what we do and do not want to do with you, Mr. Walker. Mr. Not Steve Rogers. Yeah. But I mean, just as a whole, like, this episode it felt like the calm before the storm, so to speak. It was let's go back to WandaVision. If you go back to WandaVision, there was the episode right before the end where Agatha was taking Wanda through like her past and all the moments leading up to what was happening in WandaVision, and that felt like a calm before the storm situation. Same here. We're kind of getting the wrap up storyline of certain pieces and certain threads in this, and then there's the whole what's going on with Sam's family back home. You know,
how that
wraps up. A little bit of Bucky and his mindset and what he's thinking about doing and whatnot going forward. So we get a little bit of these different pieces here that are kind of wrapping up, but it's also building to and setting up, because a lot of this episode was Sam's acceptance of, okay, the shield is now under my control. This is the mantle I now have to carry. How do I hold these responsibilities, and what do I do with it? And that's going to be it's going to make a huge impact in the future. A lot of that interesting character stuff, as well as touching on some very, very important subjects and issues. This episode did a whole lot of that, and it was awesome to see. But as a whole, I really enjoyed this episode. I did. I think this episode was not my favorite of the series so far. I think like the last episode is probably still my favorite, but there's still the recognition that this is probably one of, if not the most important episode so far in the series as a whole.
This is one of those episodes that, like, there's not much action to it, or pretty much really any. But a lot of it is like kind of like what you're saying, the calm before the storm, but it's them like rebuilding everything and getting ready for everything that's going to happen next. And I guess that would be the definition of a calm before the storm. It's one of those where it's a filler episode, but this was a filler episode with substance in it, and I loved it.
And it's hard even to say like filler, because I mean, we're talking about a 6-episode series or season here, and every episode is doing something pivotal and important. So it's filler for the terms of what this show needs to do. But for any other show, this would still be like probably the most pivotal like episode so far in terms of, you know, what's actually happening within the series and within the episode. So great episode. Really enjoyed it.
Steve to show up and say enough.
Yeah. Right?
Look, let's talk about Steve real quick, because that is a good point. The conversations that they have throughout this when they're talking about Steve, because there's many references to him, they kind of actually are talking about him like he died. Like, he is being talked about in the past tense, which, I mean, us who are consuming media, watching the movies and now the TV show, we get it. Steve Rogers is not a part of the MCU anymore. But their characters within their own world, that's like your next door neighbor moves to the other side of town, and you're like, well, he doesn't exist anymore. No, he's still alive. It's really weird.
Here's the thing. It's very open-ended. They talk about Steve as if he has died, but it's open-ended to mean that he might not necessarily be dead. He could be still alive somewhere. He's just separated from the rest of them. He's on his own now, living out the rest of his days, probably on the moon. And So it's open-ended. It could go either way. I think they're alluding to the idea that he has now since passed, because I believe this is sometime like a few months or whatever, if not a little bit more down the road past the final events of Endgame. So he was already like 100 and something at the very end of Endgame. So we're talking about, a few months later, Steve finally passes. I mean, it's very possible. So yeah, I mean, they talk about Steve as if he's gone. And even Rachel says to me, he's gone back to his other timeline. That's true. He did go back and live out his life again in his own timeline, which I believe, based on the fact that he returned all the Infinity Gems, was still technically our same timeline that we've been following.
Yeah.
It's the idea that
which is the past of it. Yeah.
It's the idea that the husband that Peggy was talking about in past movies was actually still Steve. It's kind of one of those from a certain point of view. It's one of those from a certain point of view situations.
My head's gonna hurt. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Steve's one timeline.
That fight was a fantastic fight, and I know I was hoping for something that was going to be equal to the Iron Man, Captain America, Winter Soldier fight at the end of Civil War, and for all intents and purposes, I believe it kind of lives up to that. I mean, granted, that one had Captain America and Iron Man, so the special effects budget was a lot more, and this one was done like a lot in a dark warehouse, so it's kind of hard to see a lot of some special effects like Falcon's wings or Bucky's metal arm really coming in and doing something, and like a lot of that was kind of hidden by it. But I think for a TV show with a TV show type budget, even though it might be on the scale of a feature film budget, I thought it was very well done. I enjoyed it. The action was good on that,
especially the part where they haul off and break Walker's arm. Good God.
Yeah.
Oh, I felt that one.
There were a couple of times in that though where they did manage to knock the shield away from him, and I was like, okay, there's two of y'all. One of y'all go pick up the shield and run away, and that's it. That was all you wanted to do, was just have him surrender the shield. Just go grab the shield and take off.
Well, at one point it was knocked.
Fighting.
At one point, it was knocked into Bucky's hands. Like Bucky had complete hands on it. Yeah, but Walker just got up and just booked it straight to him just to try to yank it back. It's so crazy. It's crazy to me. They really could have in that situation, Bucky's got the shield. Falcon just gets up, grabs him, and he just flies off with him. Yeah, all right, you're on your own, Walker. We got the shield. Deuces. But of course, that's not the way the story is going to go. They need to get Walker kind of subdued, or what's the word? Just essentially knocked out or whatever. Under control would be a good way. Mm-hmm. But before we continue on, we do have a Streamlab from Rachel. She jumped in here and said, "I hear through the grapevine that you need a new chair and toe splints."
That's very possible. I don't need a toe splint, but
my toe's fine. It was hurting today, but it's fine. I'm good. We're all good here. If you want to know what any of that means, then you guys can go check out the Pajukin.
It's good. It's good. We're all good. Everything's fine here. How are you?
Yeah.
Star Wars. Anyways, yeah. This is a boring conversation. Anyways, let's move on to one thing that we were hyped up for on this was the special guest.
Yeah.
That we were told that there was going to be another Marvel character who has not been in the MCU yet, and it was going to be played by an award-winning actress. And then we got that. And here's the thing, that kind of a tease, I know everyone's like, ooh, Wolverine, Mephisto.
Oh, it's Mark Hamill. He's Reed Richards. Yeah. Yay. That joke will never be old.
That's what everyone was thinking of. And what we got was Countess Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
It's Countessa.
No, not Countess. Yeah, Contessa. She is a countess, basically. That's what Contessa means. But I mean, But yeah, so Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I don't think this, like, none of these. If you were looking at anyone on the internet talking about this show, nobody was sitting there like, yeah, I bet you it's Valentina and it's going to be played by Elaine from Seinfeld. Like, nobody thought that.
Well, here's the funny thing is that this is actually like really good casting, because if you really think about it, you want to cast somebody with 18 names to play somebody with 23 names. I mean, so it just works out perfectly.
It goes without saying.
No, she's actually, like, if you look back at the history of the character, and kind of her relation to other characters within the comics, this is actually a fantastic casting. I'm actually super on board with this.
Hold on, I need to find. Let's go real quick before we dive any more into her. Okay.
There we go.
Valentina in the comic books is an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., essentially how she started off, and she was Nick Fury's like right-hand woman. Essentially, she was the precursor to what we all understand now as Maria Hill. She was the original. And she was also in the, I believe it was 1998 made-for-TV movie of Nick Fury that starred David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury. She was played by Lisa Rinna, and that is a gorgeous, gorgeous picture right there. I mean, look at the Hoff. That's right, folks. Nick Fury was originally white, and then they changed him in the comic books to, not only did they change him to black, but then they also changed him to looking like Samuel L. Jackson. So, and then the movies replicated the comics. But yeah, she was originally a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Come to find out, she was in the whole secret invasion thing where she was like a Skrull the whole time. And then in the comic book, or they found the real one in the comic books, they then made it look like the S.H.I.E.L.D. was infiltrated by Hydra, which I feel like I've heard of this before. And
that doesn't happen.
She ended up becoming like the new Madam Hydra in charge of Hydra. So she's flip-flopped between being good and bad and being a Skrull. I think all of this is probably going to come into play because we have Secret Invasion coming down the line. There was the mention that she was supposed to, I guess, originally be in Black Widow, which she probably is.
Why this question to me is very important. How did this casting not leak? Because Vanity Fair released the night of her appearance in Falcon and Winter Soldier. They released the article stating that she was actually initially supposed to have her first appearance in Black Widow, in which case we would have seen her then. And then she would have appeared in this, and her appearance in this show probably would have had a little bit more impact than it does right now. Right now, it's just look, Julie Louis-Dreyfus is playing another character. Cool. Yeah. If we actually had Black Widow before this, there'd be that.
It would have had more like
yeah. So we'll get more of her, I believe, in Black Widow. I don't think that they took her out of that movie now because it wouldn't make sense. We would like to get some backstory as to who she is actually within that. But yeah, for her to be a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and to essentially approach Walker now, that means that Walker's kind of getting wrapped up in the world of
espionage,
governmental espionage, so to speak. So.
That's what we're saying, because Black Widow was supposed to come out before this show. So, like when the show introduced her first by the high heels, and I knew when watching it, like when I saw the high heels, I'm like, okay, Valentina. And then it panned up, and I was like, okay, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Okay, Valentina is known for those high heel stiletto heel shoes.
She's the only one in Marvel Comics that wears high heel shoes, which is why he exactly knew which character was the second he saw high heel shoes.
Again, it makes sense within the context of this show that's what they would bring it. That when you saw those, it makes sense. It's one of those you have to have known the comic character.
Look, we buy your nerdiness, but you're going a little too deep here.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, I agree. Great casting. I liked her in this. I want to see what she's going to do, possibly in the next episode, and definitely in Black Widow.
Yeah,
because there's a reason that this show like primarily introduced her by showing the heels first. I'm willing to bet she is probably all like heels out on Black Widow, probably actually getting some fight scenes in there.
That'd be
with the
interesting.
heels. So
That would be interesting. So, that would be interesting. So, back to the fight that we saw at the beginning of this episode. We saw that one of the things that happened, besides Walker using his standard move, now that seems to be trying to bludgeon and chop people's heads off with the shield. Good lord, over and over again with both Bucky and Sam, was that he went ahead and disarmed, so to speak, Falcon by ripping his wings off. He clipped the bird. He clipped him. And kind of took away the Falcon aspect of Falcon, which is interesting because now we set ourselves up for a scene where he's got the shield back and you see him like wiping the blood off and everything, kind of cleaning up the mistakes that have been made with that shield as he's regaining it. But we also see him have a scene with his buddy Joaquin Torres, who we met earlier in the show. And saying that, hey, Joaquin's like, hey, you forgot your wings. You forgot these. You need the wings. And he turns back and goes, keep them. Which is one of those classic situations that we've seen in the MCU where there's just a cute little line that's tossed out there that alludes to something. Like if you go back to the first Iron Man and you see Iron Man take off, you see Tony Stark take off, and Rhodey is hanging back, turns, looks at one of the other Iron Man suits and goes, next time, baby. It's one of those situations because in the comics, Joaquin Torres becomes the Falcon. He becomes a new version of the Falcon. So it's kind of one of those playing, we're playing with you a little bit here. And, oh, good Lord. Here we go.
So, Joaquin Torres in the comics, he actually gets his DNA spliced with Red Wing, which in the comics, Red Wing is an actual bird that Falcon has a telepathic link to. So he actually becomes part Red Wing, part bird, part man. And then he ends up becoming Captain America, who's now Sam Wilson's sidekick, Red Wing, but more of a living person with bird arms. That's all.
So what you're saying is that in this world, we're expecting his DNA to be spliced with a destroyed drone.
I'm not expecting that at all. It would be weird.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be really interesting. Anyway, so that's a fun little nod. It's cool to see them kind of going this route because they're giving highlights to characters. Now that we've gotten all these major characters in the MCU, they're giving highlights to characters that are now on the rise and are kind of like the future of Marvel, so to speak. Yeah. And we're seeing them play out. What I think we're going to end up seeing is that while they're touching on a lot of stories within the MCU, we're going to start getting newer characters coming into the MCU, and we're going to see new characters that haven't had as much time within the comics taking over and kind of leading the pack. And these characters are going to provide us with like new stories, maybe outside of comic books, and give us new stuff to play with within the MCU, which will be a lot of fun. I mean, when we're looking at like New Avengers and the young kids, and you got Joaquin Torres, and we got Riri's coming, and we got, Patriot and Iron Lad's probably down the road too. Still, like all sorts of stuff coming.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see Joaquin actually with the Falcon wings in the next episode, though. That might be one of those, like, he comes in, like, at the end of, like, whatever major fight there is, and he's like, I fixed him. I got him repaired.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's very likely. We're talking about situations where we have, like, different players kind of floating about still. And, again, we'll talk about Walker some more later because Walker's, again, such a huge part of the series. I can see him still coming from the making amends side. I think it's a hard sell. I think it's going to be a really hard sell, and it's going to take some really good writing to convince us that he's somebody that we want to root for now. But there's a chance. There's a chance because U.S. Agent in the comics does become a good guy. He is fighting for the good side. He goes through the Super Patriot bad guy side first, but whether they intend to kill him off within this series or leave him as somebody who can play a role within like a movie later on. I mean, Wyatt Russell is a talented actor, and to be able to bring him back for future stories, I think would be super, super cool. So I hope that they don't kill him off within the show, but I think we're looking at a situation where, we could see him trying to make amends by the end of the series here.
Yeah. Real quick, Maxwell Haddad asking, how's the chair and foot? Chair is broken, his foot's okay.
Foot's fine. Yeah. I had a limp today, but that's because I have my toe stings a little bit. But
the chair's gonna get replaced, though.
Yeah.
Like the next thing that we had on here that looked really interesting was this thing with Zemo.
Oh,
the conversation Zemo had with Bucky, and then like Bucky goes to try to like shoot him, and then it's empty, and you see him drop the bullets, and then they get flanked by the Dora Milaje
ladies.
Yeah, I love it. That was so good. That whole conversation, while it was great that it was alluding, it was a nice way to subtly say bye to Zemo in the series, because I doubt we're going to see him in the next episode. Or if we do, it's going to be a nice little hint as to what he's doing at the raft.
There's some notes I like about what they did with Zemo here. One, I think you're right. I think if we see anything else with Zemo in this series, it's going to be the post-credit scene of the last episode, and it'll be kind of setting up a future storyline in another show or a future movie. And it's kind of dealing with the whole, like, he's at the raft, which is the perfect setup for him being a part of the Thunderbolts and everything later on. So they're setting up for that specifically.
Those not familiar, I'm not going to put the glasses on, but Thunderbolts is a group of villains posing as superheroes. That's the extremely shortened version of it. It's like Suicide Squad, only they're acting like heroes instead of villains being forced to be heroes.
Yeah. What I like here is I want to note that going into the series, I think we all thought that Zemo was going to be the main villain of the entire series. Well, I think that besides the fact that subverts expectations a little bit, they actually used him perfectly in this series. They did exactly. That's specifically what I'm talking about. No, I think they used him perfectly within this series. I think what they've done with him throughout these last few episodes is just an awesome story arc for him. And it does get him from point A to point B to be able to be set up for future stories. But within this, I think we got enough of like finding out more about his kind of backstory, who he really is. They brought in the whole Baron storyline with him, made him kind of like an actual a bad guy with some money.
He wore the mask for like 5 seconds.
He wore the mask for 5 seconds. We're going to see that again in the future, I'm sure. But I really like what they did with Zemo in this series. Not make him the bad guy. Make the villains. Make the villains of the series. The villains of the series being, I think, on one end you have the Flag Smashers, on the other end you have Walker, and these are your kind of antagonists throughout the series. And I really, really like that. Zemo dancing is the new vision. Look,
I was just thinking of that because I'm looking here like at our files behind the scenes here, and I have this, and then I can also still click on that, so I can go back and forth.
Please don't.
But yeah.
So yeah. That's just the note I want to say. I think they used Zemo perfectly within this series. I was not expecting him to kind of be a tag along good guy and kind of having to team up with them, so to speak. But I love it. I love what they've done with him here, especially this last scene. This whole like make amends. Real quick, you saw Bucky feign shooting him essentially, and then dropping the bullets. What I love about that is, that's Bucky, who was at one point controlled by Zemo within Civil War.
Yeah.
Turning around and kind of showing him, no, I have the power now. I have control over the Winter Soldier. I am no longer that person. I can choose not to actually kill you here. And I love that.
I love what Zemo did was like, I took the liberty of crossing my name off in the book. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Like that was awesome.
Yeah. Such good character moments between those two. Such good character moments. But We want to bounce back over to Walker real quick. We see his court date, essentially, where he is standing before the senators and the who's-its in the government.
He's essentially being court-martialed, and the punishments and everything that he gets.
Yeah.
For those of y'all familiar with military terms.
Which I am very vaguely familiar with some things. But basically we see him getting a less harsh punishment than he probably deserves.
He got other than honorable, which, I mean, you kill somebody in the line of duty like that. I mean, he straight up murdered him. Yeah. I don't know. It's like the government. Obviously, it's the government trying to do a cover up, but I mean, that should have been easily dishonorable discharge with a straight to like Leavenworth for the rest of his life type of thing. But not like other than honorable. Other than honorable, you can still get a job with that. That's still passable in normal society. That's not a huge punishment for him. Taking away, taking away his benefits, that makes sense. As the benefits and something like that are kept private. So him being discharged would be more public knowledge. The losing the benefits in anything is more private. So it's something that the military likely could do as more of a really sticking it to them type of thing. That's really where the punishment comes from.
There's a lot of things at work here, because you have to consider there's what we think he probably should get in terms of a punishment for his actions. But there's also you need to take into consideration, it was Captain America wearing the red, white, and blue on foreign soil.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up murdering somebody who had their hands up, was unarmed, was defenseless, and was essentially surrendering. And he still straight up murdered him on foreign soil. That is an international... That's a huge international issue. And we're talking about someone who's literally representing the U.S. military by wearing red, white, and blue as a costume.
And calling himself Captain America.
And calling himself Captain America literally every second he gets. That's a big deal.
Hi, I'm Robert Adams, Schmodown contestant.
We are talking at the same time. The reason why he's not really harshly punished in a big way is because he has a honorable track record within his time of service. There is a lot that he has done within his service that they are not overlooking when giving him the punishment, which I will bring this up later, because this is kind of juxtaposed with something else that happens within this series that I think kind of alludes to the whole the race issues that they're talking about in here too within this series.
Actually, that's a pretty good segue if you just want to dive into that, because that's the next thing anyways.
That's true. The next one is
right after it.
Kind of the big pivotal situation, the big pivotal scene within this show that I know the two of us feel wholly unqualified to really speak too deeply about.
But it's we can understand it, but we are not going to understand it type of thing. But I get the points that are being made in this conversation.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's the conversation that Sam has with Isaiah, which I know a lot of us were really hoping that they would explore this, that they would come back to Isaiah Bradley and kind of explore more of what actually happened to him and what informs his mindset, and then how is that going to affect Sam and what informs his mindset. And there's a lot here. There's so much to unpack. But the long and short of it is that there was a lot of experimentation that the government was doing. And they kind of touched on this in prior episode. There's a lot of experimentation the government was doing on black men in the military who essentially were given the super soldier serum. And without being told. And Isaiah was talking about how a lot of them kind of went crazy with it because, as we know and as we've seen in the series, good when you're given the serum, good becomes better and bad becomes worse. but it didn't take as big of an effect in Isaiah as it did some of these others. Huh?
Said, all right, Tucci.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, that's where that line comes from. And so he was experimented on and was essentially poked and prodded, like, why is this not doing what it's doing with you? And then on top of that, in order to get out of there, he essentially ended up being thrown into prison for 30 years or so. His story was absolutely heartbreaking because he's talking about, was it his wife or his loved one who essentially didn't give up, but by the time he was released, she was gone. He essentially lost his loved one. He lost his life, his ability. Like 30 years is a long time. 30 years is a good chunk of one's life, especially during the pivotal years of your 20s into your 50s. That is your life, essentially.
Yeah.
And so, when he finally was able to get out, being able to say, like, you know what, I'm dead. I'm out of here. Don't come looking for me. Just let me be dead, essentially. His story is so heartbreaking, especially when you like get into the details of what his story actually represents in terms of what has actually happened in real life history with black men in the military, and especially back in those days where there was things being shot into their arms without their knowledge. And that's a huge deal within actual history. So to have this show kind of touch on that in a comic book way, but still touch on some of that stuff is a big deal, because then you're talking about with Sam, his Isaiah's line, a black man will never become Captain America in this country, and no self-respecting black man would want to take up the shield. And that to me floored me. I was like, that's huge. Because that means Sam has to wrestle with okay, what does it actually mean for me to take up this shield? What am I actually representing? I'm representing a country that doesn't care about me. What does that mean? What responsibility am I taking on now by taking up this shield? Knowing that. Huge conversation that this show is having. You have any thoughts?
No, you summed it all up actually pretty well. It's not that I don't want to add to this conversation, but I mean, that is what they were trying to get with this. And it's a great conversation to have because unfortunately, I'm not that familiar with the comic books when Sam Wilson became Captain America. I don't know if a conversation like this in some form or fashion ever came about, but it definitely makes sense that given current society, this would be something that would be talked about. And like, especially when you're coming from the perspective of Isaiah here, like, it makes sense. Like I would agree and understand. Definitely he does seem to be a little bittered by it, but I feel like he has the right to, and like I get why he does.
Yeah.
So
then as a side note, Gordon brings up a good point here. He who has to say I am Captain America is not Captain America. And then Rachel said, true. The only time Steve ever said I'm Captain America was in self-mockery when he released those prisoners from the first Avenger. Yeah. It's true. I flat out don't remember ever hearing Steve actually claim to be Captain America.
Did he say that? Because the only one I remember is Bucky. After they got back to camp, Bucky looked at it like, "Let's hear it for Captain America."
Yeah,
like I don't remember. I don't know if Steve actually ever said that, other than maybe when doing the USO show. But
yeah, the only time I ever heard Steve refer to himself, he always just referred to himself as his name, Steve. He even in Infinity War, I am Groot, Steve Rogers. He just went by his name.
The closest were like, I know, was that someone was asking him if he has the ability. I think it was when he was going to rescue the prisoners. If he has the clearance or the authority. He's like, well, I am a captain. Like right before jumping out of the plane. Does he have a parachute? No. Or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
supposed to be Schwent's I'm Captain America. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, but
Rachel would be great at movie trivia.
Yeah. Juxtaposed with Walker in this show, who every second he gets tries to exclaim that he's Captain America, especially when he's trying to kill Bucky and Sam, going, "I'm Captain America." No, you're not, buddy. But anyway, back to where we were here. There's a lot to unpack there. And then I know going from that conversation with Isaiah, we see, Sam go back to essentially go back to his sister, Sarah, and kind of hanging out with the family and trying to figure out, okay, what do we do with this boat? Kind of going back to, his life back home and how are we working this situation and whatnot. Which is great. I mean, you realize like, okay, the Flag Smashers are still out there. What's happening here? Well, they're kind of being sidelined right now. They're kind of, the whole incident with Walker, it's kind of like, hey, everybody, just take a breather and step off of this thing for a little bit, which gives Sam plenty of time to realign his priorities, realign how he thinks and how he considers, again, what it means to take up that shield, while also doing a very Captain America thing, which is uniting his community to bring everybody come together and kind of get that boat fixed up. He's calling in favors with the community because their parents are just, they were so vital to the community. And anyway, so I thought there was a lot of fun stuff there, a lot of interesting stuff there, especially when Bucky came onto the scene and they kind of started palling around together and started working together. I thought this was exactly where their relationship needed to go. And
I enjoyed seeing Bucky hit on Sam's sister. That was kind of a flirt, not really hit on, but like they had like a flirty moment or two.
Yeah, that was really funny. But then at least that really
my sister.
At least a really great conversation between Bucky and Sam, starting with Bucky saying, when Steve told me what he was planning, meaning that he was planning on going back in time and just being with Peggy and then passing the shield off to Sam. When Steve told me what he was planning, I don't think either of us, neither Bucky nor Steve, understood what it meant for a black man to carry that shield. And then he said, "I owe you an apology," which I think was such a huge, amazing line.
Yeah, it makes sense because like Steve wasn't alive during like the civil rights movements and like a lot of the stuff that we know of in history that were like defining moments for like African American people in this country.
He was on ice, yeah,
he was on ice. So he has like no unless he just happened to research it while he was looking up Rocky, Star Wars, and the Trouble Man soundtrack on his little notebook. None of that was like, hey, go back and research the history of racism in the United States while you were on ice. Like he would have no idea. He had no clue on it.
The only other thing is that you saw old man Steve pass off the shield. So by that point, old man Steve has actually lived through all of that. Oh,
that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, the whole time travel thing just messing with your brain. So it's really interesting, but I like that Bucky was taking the look. I admit it. We have no idea. We do not have the same vantage point that a black man has in this country. So we cannot speak from that. So I completely apologize if we overstepped our boundary lines here when assuming things or making these decisions. So I thought
it mirrors what we see today. We've got like the Black Lives Matter movement going on, and we've got essentially we have a lot of like white people now are saying like, I had no idea. Like we've talked about like the white privilege, and I have no idea what that privilege is. I have no idea what it means. And I was like, white, you're not going to understand this. So therefore, it's kind of the same like position. You're not going to understand or know what it could mean for Sam to be Captain America throughout all of history, and especially into today, kind of like what Isaiah Bradley was bringing up. So yeah, it's really amazing, like how this series was written to be a Marvel series, but still touch upon these issues.
And it also does the same thing within this Marvel series, where now you see Sam kind of coming back with Bucky saying like, okay, now let's talk about what's going on with you. You know, you've been out here trying to avenge what you've done as the Winter Soldier, but really you should be helping people. You should be, just trying. I forget the word he uses instead of avenge, but he's saying find one person and really help them, serve them, because there's definitely at least one person on your list that really needs some closure. And of course, we all know,
and you're the one that can bring it to him.
Yeah,
and then Bucky was like, "There's dozens." He's like, "Start with one."
Yeah, we all know who he's talking about. He's talking about the old man that he was palling around with at the beginning of the series, and I know we're going to get a scene with him next episode and kind of have some closure to his "what happened to my son" kind of a situation. So that was really cool. It's really interesting to see Sam is still. This is again proof that Sam is so the right person for the Captain America shield, because that means that he's kind of doing what Steve would do, which is, counsel. Yeah. Counselor Sam. Yeah. He would counsel, he would talk him down, try to connect with him on his level type of situation. And I think that's a really pivotal key thing for him as Captain America. And then we get this sweet, sweet Rocky training montage. Oh yeah.
Yeah, him throwing the shield at those pads. Like, I've always wondered, like, especially when you watch the other Captain America movies, like, he always seems to just throw it. And if you know, like, physics and geometry and angles and stuff, there's no way you could throw a shield and it hits like one angle and then bounces back. Even like within the framing of like my window here, if you throw the shield here, it's going to go here and then bounce probably down over here. And then who knows where it's going to go after that corner. Like, to be able to know those trajectories when throwing a shield in the heat of the battle, that's what's amazing with it. It's not that you throw a shield, it bounces back, because apparently vibranium bounces. Not that the shield bounces back and you're able to catch it. It's knowing that trajectory. I think it was it Winter Soldier, where the movie Captain America Winter Soldier, when he's escaping from the Triskelion, when after the elevator and everything, he's on the motorcycle and he jumps up onto the jet that's blocking him. He throws the shield and it bounces between the tails of that jet and then disables the jet. Like, how did you're on a motorcycle, you jump up, you throw how the hell did you know that?
It's Captain America. He has superhuman, literally everything.
So it was kind of interesting seeing that Sam is throwing the shield and he's learning those quirks on how to throw it. And like at some point it would bounce back and he seemingly didn't know it was going to bounce like right at his face. So he would duck or he wouldn't catch it. And then he moved on from the patting of the trees to running down to the dock there and just throwing it at like a dock post, and it bounces right back to him because, again, vibranium bounces.
And that's the thing. That's why they're able to do that with that shield, is because of how vibranium displaces energy when it's impacted. So that's why that shield's able to exist in a outside of physics, real life physics sort of situation.
Thank you, Sheldon.
Anyway, so that was really fun. I really enjoy that. I really like to see what they're going to do with Sam. Again, I think that beyond this season, I think they are really setting up for another Captain America movie where Sam is now going to be the Captain America, and that's kind of what I want to see. I don't necessarily want to see a second season of this, but if they give it to me, I'm going to watch it because this series is great. But I think that really we're looking at a situation where they're probably just going to start leaning towards more Captain America movies in the future.
Yeah.
Now we flip back real quick to one quick scene of Sharon Carter calling up Batroc. You know she's calling it Batroc because you can hear him on the phone. And we know that he's in a Algerian prison, apparently.
Batroc the Leaper.
Batroc the Leaper, yeah.
Why do you call him Batroc? It's Batroc.
because I don't feel like using the accent. Batrock. So apparently Sharon is working with him and somewhat with the Flag Smashers. And again, what the hell is she doing? Who is she working for? Is she the power broker? Is she working for the power broker? I don't know any of this. We're going to find out this next episode. I don't know.
The audio cut out when you said that, so it kind of sounded like you cursed. What the?
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
No, I said, what the hell?
Yeah, no, we heard.
Hell.
It's just kind of funny.
But yeah, it's an interesting situation because we now have Batrock bringing stuff to Carly and the Flag Smashers.
Could have I found a goofier picture of him?
Hello.
He's like, hi, I'm a spokesmodel for toothpaste. You should use your toothpaste, people. Get the back incisors and molars and whatnot. Anyways, yeah.
Well, hello there, young lady. I see you need some stuff for your movement. Anyway,
toothpaste.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. I had a feeling that he would come back into the show. I mean, when he survived Falcon's attack, I get it. Yes, when he survived Falcon's attack in the first episode, I was like, okay, he's definitely going to come back at some point. Maybe later on in this show.
And I thought Batrock was going to be the main villain the whole time also, and subverting expectations again.
Did you really?
No. I forgot he was even going to be in the first eepisode, or he was even going to be in this series until I saw him in the first episode. I'm like, oh yeah, Batrock's in this. Okay.
Fair enough. So we're really kind of seeing the Flag Smasher plot kind of really fully develop here because they're trying to stop the vote on the refugees or displaced persons being forced to go back to their country. Essentially, the GRC is kind of pushing a vote to make that happen, and we're seeing they're trying to keep that from happening. And the way they do that is by having people in all sorts of different places, kind of like a Hydra-esque situation where they've infiltrated various places in order to grow their movement and everything.
Especially the meeting room, because we see the meeting room, all of a sudden power shut down, the lights turn red, and then what looks like probably all of the Flag Smasher people within the room kind of like descend upon the GRC people that are sitting in chairs, and then like the camera cuts away. We don't see exactly what happened in that meeting room.
Which I don't know if they actually really disclosed the actual location or if they just said it's the GRC council building or whatever, but it feels like
it's in New York.
Yeah, it feels like a UN type situation. They're in the UN or something like that. Yeah, which would make sense because they are all in New York City and that's where the UN is.
Or what's the higher council that Nick Fury and Alexander Pierce were having the World Council
or something like that. Something like that. Anyway, it's really interesting to see kind of them. All right, we're taking our final steps in the storyline with the Flag Smashers, what their plan is and what they're accomplishing. Again, we're talking about villains. They've killed people. They are villains here, where they're bad guys whose ideals make sense.
Marvel does so well with these.
One of those situations where it's like, I'm rooting against them, but am I really? Like, I kind of want to see them accomplish their mission. I really would rather they don't kill people in the process because I think their ideas are good.
You tackled everyone.
Everybody who's just watching this show has no idea what that means, even though we keep referencing it.
Well, they should be following us on Twitter at CineFanaticsMLP, and you could probably go back through our tweets and see what was retweeted and mentioned and probably find your way. Plus, the tackle has been shared like all over Twitter right now. So, yeah, it's easy to find out what we're talking about.
Anyway, I'm interested in seeing the way this all goes down with them, especially because I think we're gearing up with multiple people having a fight because Sam learns from Joaquin that the last hit was in New York, and he's like, nope, I know exactly what's happening. I know where they're at. They are in New York, and we need to mobilize, kind of a thing.
In which case, he then turns around and he grabs this really thick briefcase that Bucky gave him earlier in the episode, opens the briefcase, looks down at it, and we don't get to see what it is, so I'm going to assume, even though it didn't give off a yellow glow, it's probably Marcellus Wallace's soul because we assume that's what was in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. So, or we might find out in the next episode. I'm going to venture a guess. It's probably a new Falcon / Captain America costume. Just a pure guess. I don't know why I would think that.
Well, so we know that Bucky asked Io for another favor. So this briefcase here from Wakanda being the favor, I'm going to go ahead and assume that Sam is going to be gifted with some Wakanda vibranium type armor. Steve didn't need vibranium armor because, oh god,
so messed up.
Oh my god, yes. What's in the Wakandan box? It's it's Pepper.
It's Pepper Potts' head.
Pepper Potts' head. Oh god, it's awful. But yeah, no, Steve didn't need armor like that because
she said she'd return with for a bit part. I mean, just like,
oh my gosh. Steve didn't need armor because Steve had super soldier serum running through him, so he was able to like heal quicker. He was able to, his skin was denser, whatever the term would be for tougher. But Sam, who is just a normal guy, definitely probably needs some battle armor. And so he's looks like he's probably getting some from Wakanda. That's what I'm going to go ahead and assume is in there, especially because Sam's Captain America costume is actually really sick looking, and I would really love to see that translated into the show. That's going to be really cool.
Haven't we seen it like in the previews though? Haven't they shown it?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
I think they did. Or like I already know what it looks like in the comics, and I'm willing to bet the way it looks in the comics, I believe, can be translated 100% into this form of media. So I'm just imagining that on Anthony Mackie.
It's going to be cool looking.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'm hoping that we see in the next episode is what's in that box. I believe we will, but
probably be the opening shot.
Yeah, probably. And then we wrap up the whole episode with a post credit, which Marvel apparently likes to do within the last couple episodes of these shows now, and so I'm guessing that we should be expecting this going forward in these TV shows. We got a post credit of Mr. Walker creating his own shield, which this is really interesting to me because one, this isn't vibranium. There's no way this is going to be vibranium. One, we see him hammering stuff on it, and I don't believe that has a vibranium hammer to be able to hammer with. So this is just going to be some other decently strong alloy of some sort.
Well, he was attaching his metals. He was taking the metal off of the ribbon and attaching it to the shield.
Which that strikes me as he's still a guy with a huge ego problem happening here.
Yep.
Where it's like that right there leads me to believe that we're not necessarily going to see a complete turnaround for him within this series, within this show. And I don't know how I feel about, does that mean he's going to be killed off in the last episode or what? But again, his character turns good in the comics. U.S. Agent is a good guy in the comics. So we do see him.
Hate him. So, I mean, I'm okay if we leave it where we still hate the character. I mean,
maybe. We do see him kind of like hammering out a letter U. So I believe that he is going to call himself U.S. Agent in some way in the next episode, potentially.
I always hated that character. God, I hate U.S. Agent. Just.
Hey, real quick, do you hate U.S. Agent?
I feel like hate gets thrown around so much. I feel like that word has lost its all meaning. Let me see if I can think of something else that would work better.
Heartily dislike.
No, that's Louis Anderson. I mega loathe U.S. Agent.
I mega loathe you.
I mega loathe you all.
Nice.
It's a Scrubs reference, y'all.
And real quick, I forgot to mention this earlier. That final shot opens with the picture of him and Lamar, and there was that brief moment in the episode where he was talking to Lamar's family, and they were asking, was this the man that killed our boy?
He was lying to Lamar's parents, yeah.
And he was like, yeah, which for them, I guess it's a ignorance is bliss type situation. Like they believe that he killed the man who killed their son, and unless they get told the truth, they are content with that. That gives them peace, which is a very moral gray area, honestly. You're not telling them the truth, but you're also still giving them peace. It's a very moral gray area. Very bad on Walker, but I guess good for them, so to speak.
Except that always leaves open the possibility in the real world is what happens when it becomes known that it was really Carly that killed him. And then the parents find out, and then they go back to this guy who's supposedly Lamar's best friend, his partner. Like, it just looks bad. I would not want to be putting myself in that position.
Yeah. But we also know that he's not thinking with his head on straight right now either. So, and then the other thing I wanted to touch on that I didn't get to was that we talk about Isaiah Bradley having been in prison for 30 years after his time in the military, and you're looking at Walker only getting stripped of his benefits essentially, and that's kind of the juxtaposition that they're kind of showing off the privilege of the white man and his
blonde hair, blue-eyed
white man versus the black man who was horribly mistreated. So interesting situations, interesting discussions the show really is having, and metaphors and whatnot that they're putting out there. I think was it? He's going to try. He's definitely at least going to go after Carly. He's gonna make that one right. He's going to try. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting that we don't get Zemo again in this show. I'm assuming because it'd be fascinating to see everybody try to go after Carly all at the same time. But
yeah,
either way, it's going to be an interesting action-packed episode. I'm assuming next week. So I believe we are planning on doing this on the Friday. Well, what is next week? Is next week
next week is going to be the week of the free-for-all.
But that's on Saturday, so we're fine.
I don't think there's anything going on Friday night, so we will probably do this at its regular time on Friday night for the finale. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to talk about that because I guarantee that finale is going to have all the action that was not in this episode. So we'll be like, man, that punch was cool. That kick was awesome. And John Walker is still a douche. So, yeah. If y'all have any other questions, comments, Streamlabs, Super Chat, anything else you have, get those in real quick. We're going to start wrapping this up. Chris, would you like to tell the fine people about our Patreon?
Yes, I would like to. We have a Patreon, folks. It's the link that you see up there in the corner. It's patreon.com/Cinefanatics.
I'm pointing at Winter Soldier. Please join us at the Winter Soldier.
Exactly. We're doing all sorts of stuff over on that Patreon. At the base level tier, if that's all you can afford, perfectly fine. You can join us on Discord there, where we're talking about. Well, I mean, we're open to talking about this show on Discord, doing all sorts of stuff over there. Come hang out. Come help us build that community over in the Discord. It's a lot of fun. At the other tiers, though, we do watch-alongs, which, again, we have one coming up, I believe, next week. And we're going to be watching along on Wednesday, Thor, the first Thor movie in the MCU. We're continuing our MCU watch-through that we're doing very slowly because we're doing other watch-alongs in between these movies. Mm-hmm. But we are watching Thor next week and talking about all the fun stuff happening in that movie. And so we want you guys to come hang out, join us. I believe that's at the Dude tier.
Join us while we get hammered on camera.
We should have something to drink during that, just for fun.
We'll get like some like mead or something that feels like Asgardian.
I like this drink. Another.
Yeah, that was coffee. I'm not drinking coffee that late at night while doing a watch along, especially if I'm going to have to be at work first thing the next morning. Nope.
Yeah, so we'll be doing that. I believe we usually schedule those about 9 p.m. Central Time, so 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. If you guys want to come hang out with us, join us at the Dude tier on Patreon. Otherwise, you can join us at the Maverick tier. for movie trivia nights. We're doing a lot of studying because we are both part of the first class league of the movie trivia Schmodown. So we're doing all kinds of movie trivia studying right now to get us psyched and prepared for winning matches in that. And also at that tier, whenever we do have a match, you can also hang out with us, do a little behind the scenes of whatever match we happen to be a part of that day or that week. And we'll be able to kind of give you some insights into our thoughts, what we're thinking during the actual match itself. So a lot of fun stuff on that tier. Lots of fun stuff, all the tiers on Patreon. You want to come join us there. All bunch of words that I don't know what I'm saying now. It doesn't matter. Just come join us on patreon.com.
Yeah, that's what that feels like, y'all. Running a YouTube channel and being live. Woo, you gotta start figuring out how to word right on camera. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been a day.
I don't see any more questions. No one else. Thor enjoys 4 roses. Yeah, call me Thor because I absolutely do. No, seriously, call me Thor.
You remind me of Thor.
Nobody?
You remind me of Thor in some movies.
Not the Thor from Endgame.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
I know what you're thinking. You forget we are brothers.
Hey, just so you know, Thor from Endgame kicked Thanos' ass, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyways, that's going to do it for tonight's episode. Make sure you join us back here again Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m. Central Time. That's 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern for the tagline. The show where the tagline is the title. We'll be talking about movie news and all the great movie stuff coming up. I know there's a Mortal Kombat movie that's coming out pretty soon, so I will be watching that. And I don't think it's going to be by this Tuesday, but I will be reviewing that probably on the following tagline after it comes out. So looking forward to that. Movie rankings our ranking videos are on hold right now while I work my buttocks off at my actual job doing 10 to 12 hour long shifts. So I have no time to work on stuff that I enjoy. So therefore we're doing a lot of live streams, and that's what's happening here. Movie trailers, again, kind of the same thing. As we can get to them, we'll get to them if at all possible. Anyways, that's what we're doing here on this channel. As for this particular video, make sure you drop us a like if you liked this video, which you did. It's good. We all like this video. It's amazing. If you're watching this on a replay, make sure you comment down below and share this with your friends and family. Everyone who likes Falcon and Winter Soldier. If you like the Fat Wuss, your friends and family like the Fat Wuss, we all like the Fat Wuss, share our conversation about the Fat Wuss. I'm trying to get it in because I won't be able to say that after next week's episode. So, and then also make sure y'all subscribe to this channel. You can hit the subscribe button that's right below. Hit the bell. That way when we go live, y'all are all notified and you can all be here as we go live at the start. And yeah, that's going to be it. Do you have anything else, my dear brother?
No, I'm good.
We
got everything. We got everything covered.
Cool. Anyways, so that's going to be it for tonight. Thank y'all in the chat for being here. Thank y'all for watching. We very much appreciate all of y'all being here. Yeah, well, it happens. You might have to like explain to them what it means type of thing. So
just as a note, I would recommend never saying that.
Yeah. Y'all know the context within this video. We're good. I don't know why it's offensive. Anyways, thank y'all for watching tonight. As for myself, as for my brother, we appreciate y'all being here, and we will see y'all later. Good night. That was weird.